it's Carolyn, and back in the crapper again. Hey, baby steps, right? I think I mentioned to you guys yesterday, my son is learning to edit, and he's pretty much a perfectionist with things. When he's ready, he'll probably help me with this adventure, or at least I keep telling myself that. Because I have no real material. Remember in the beginning when I was trying to find a topic and I couldn't even narrow it down? Well, how about just things that I'm thinking about on the day that I'm thinking about them? How's that for abstract? Hey, it won't be that abstract. I'm pretty basic. But I get into these arguments with people. There seems to be always somebody on the internet, and they always bring up the Noah's Ark story as to discredit the Bible. And as I really don't know how to formally argue and debate that, my very simplistic answer to that is not everything we are capable of even understanding. Because these two guys, two of them, and they supposedly didn't even know each other, but they were making the same argument about the same story. And you know how the internet is. For all I know, it could be the same person. But that's a whole nother rat hole. It's like when you get attacked for having an opinion somebody finds unpopular, so they insult you from one account and then you block them on that one, and then they come back and insult you again from a totally different account, which I know some of that is going on, but you know, that's the beauty of thinking you're anonymous when you probably really aren't. But back to the topic, so many people I listen to are such brilliant Bible scholars, and maybe they could help me present an argument, because quite simply, this is really the way I look at it. Just because we as mere mortals cannot comprehend how every single animal could be on that boat, the way I think that it happened was that it's the DNA of every single animal on the boat. Why wouldn't it be that way? Well, then somebody would argue, why didn't he just explain it? Would you try to explain DNA to a room of babies and kindergartners? We're very, very quick to put down the Bible anyway, because to me, at least just to me, it's very hard to pull apart and comprehend, and because they speak in a different type of language than what we speak in this modern world, to me, it loses my attention, to be honest with you guys. I don't know, maybe that's the devil trying to intercept, but more than likely that's my tiny little brain saying, you know what, if I have to break down every 2 and 3 words, I'm going to put it away and get out my 50 Shades of Grey and read that instead. You don't have to be no genius to read that. Isn't that for sure? Hey, that's a joke. I still to this very day haven't read any more than the cover of that thing. If you are a woman and you're on the internet, even if you're not a particularly young woman, you're running from smut day to day anyway. You don't have to seek it out if you want it. All right. Again, too far from the original topic. But I believe that the story of Noah's Ark is not necessarily symbolic. I believe that it is literal, but it isn't something that we could literally comprehend at where we were at when it was written. I think a big part of the Bible could be that way, because there's so much more that man cannot understand than what he or she can. Would that be the way that some of you more intellectual people would explain it? Because there are many, many people that are quick to discredit the Bible because I think they think with their big brains, if they can't comprehend it, then it's just totally incapable of happening. Well, imagine a time before airplanes and trying to explain airplanes to these guys jumping off buildings that were still making paper wings, thinking they could fly like birds. there's many steps. You don't start from A and understand Z without all of the steps in between that we at this particular point aren't made to comprehend. Isn't that part of what having faith is anyway? As having the full feeling that it will all make sense to you in time. Anyway, that's the way I explained it, and they blew me off like that was a good way of saying nothing, but I think it's a perfect way. And it is very hard because you want, with your limited five senses and maybe some days six, you want from your limited senses to be able to comprehend things that are just beyond anything that you have ever experienced. But like, we're back to the same topic. Did Epstein himself in prison? I think a normal person would have maybe reacted to that and done that. But look at all the stuff he had gotten away with up until that point. He had a whole lot of bargaining tools to where somebody would have given him life in prison just to simply know all the details. And he had all those films of celebrities and everybody doing things with underage children. And then the thing comes back to, how about this? Probably not every one of those celebrity type rich folk that got heavily drugged and medicated or too much alcohol. You don't automatically go around carding everybody you meet. They probably thought that the very young, probably mostly women, were actually of age. They just look very young because you don't go around carding everybody. So then there's that. The people that are in this footage doing that, maybe they didn't know that was an underage person. Again, it comes back to the original topic. You'd have to assume everybody knew everything about the whole environment and atmosphere to even call them guilty. Maybe the reason we don't get to see the list is because it would be too hard to understand, okay, so-and-so was there, but they did not, like I said before, they didn't know all of what was going on, which I think is the case of most celebrities. I don't think that Epstein printed out brochures with everything that he offered once you were there. I do think that he deliberately heavily medicated and sedated and got people that he wanted to have something on in positions where he would have that footage to use. And no, back to the original question, I do not believe that he in any way offed himself. I think he had a huge narcissistic ego. He would have never done that. He assumed, like every time before, he would get off with a slap on the wrist. But probably all is left of the files and the movies and everything is nothing. Is it so hard for you guys to comprehend that probably by now it's been years that all of the original names have been altered or erased, or who has them? We would never know. I have been accused of blindly supporting Trump, but he kind of has won me over, and I don't blindly really support anyone. If you have listened to me for any time, you would know I'm very tinfoil hat, and me trusting any of them is probably a stretch, but I come much closer to trusting him than any of the rest. It could be this is really all he has been allowed to have. But I don't know. It would be nice to know in the sense of justice and fairness, but I will go back to what I said originally. There are people that will not, justice is not fair and it is not even, and probably the sooner we accept the reality of that and go about our lives. But we're sitting at home expecting entertainment, and we want there to be just entertainment. Well, maybe it goes back to the biblical topic. If you believe that everything in the dark eventually comes into the light, maybe we won't be a fly on the wall when it all happens, but eventually it will all come into the light. I mean, we are just so in need of being entertained. Otherwise, we still wouldn't be talking about that darn Coldplay segment. Why is everybody so quick to jump on the bandwagon and call all parties involved, well, the main two involved in the cheating thing? Every other marriage ends in divorce. The cheating thing really isn't a new concept, you guys. I don't know. I mean, they were at the wrong place at the wrong time, or being very tinfoil hat, maybe somebody was tipped off to put the light on them. I don't know. But, I mean, yes, it's probably good that something else is getting our attention, but again, why? Sometimes you just have to get calm and say, not all things are going to end the way you want them to. And maybe just learn to be happy and say, well, I wasn't involved anyway. I've been all over this crapper with topics this morning, isn't it? But at least I didn't have any weird dreams last night. You know what I need to do? I have a friend whose birthday is in a few days, Lori. I doubt you even know I have a YouTube channel. But if by chance, you know what? I do look her up every July 31st. So I probably should just try to call her up, but I know that this is no excuse. You know what? I'm going to call her up, regardless if she wants to hear from me or not. I'm just going to call, not now, not like at 2 in the morning, because, you know, hey, I'll bet she's up at that time, though. I bet right now she is up, because she always, I mean, way back when we were in high school, she was always wide awake and alert, come about 11 to 12 o'clock, and she didn't unwind until about 6 or 7 in the morning. Those were her hours. But I'll just check and see if she's on Facebook. But if you want to reach me, my email and phone number are usually always there in the description. And since I have no topic, I'm just doing this rando conversation from the crapper every morning because, well, you'll get something different when I make a short AI video, or when I get some of the, in case you didn't hear, I bought a whole bunch of, I guess they're called 8mm films, the old vintage footage of people's home movies, and I have them developed, which is pretty expensive, and play clips of them as well from time to time. I don't know those people. The original ones that I showed were my family, but beyond that, I don't even know who these people are. So, you know, I talked about that before too, and how much trouble I could potentially get into, but supposedly none. If they were surrendered to estate sales, garage sales, things like that, then, well, I guess they have decided whatever's on there, you can see it. So far, the second batch were really, really short ones. I paid the full price, like they had these big film reels full of their plots and vacations. And the sad thing about paying for all of that, which was over $300, is there was probably like a total half hour of footage on there. So maybe that wasn't the best idea, but you know what? I will just keep trying. Anyway, you guys have a blessed Wednesday.